I'm Mary Ann Slatich Lance. I often say that I've spent more than half my life with Providence. I have served probably more recently in Providence as the leader of all of our formation programs, and I take that work very seriously and feel very compelled to ensure that the formation that we do, especially with our leaders, is really consistent with who we are. I grew up in Anaconda, Montana, which is a little town in the southwest part of Montana, and I have Montana in my blood. I am just so delighted to be here with my dear friend, Suzanne Hartung, and I'll give her a chance to say a few words about herself.
Thanks, Mary Ann. So I grew up in Portland, Oregon, born at St. Vincent's, and in high school I worked at the Child Center and then went into the religious community, the Sisters of Providence. I was really educated in the field of education itself and was a teacher for 25 years until my community asked me to go into healthcare. And I was asked to go to Providence Medical Center, Seattle. The first thing that was given to me was the ethics committee, of which I knew nothing, but kind of faked it, and then asked to go and study more thoroughly ethics. And I had the chance to go to the University of Louvain, which was truly transformative for me. I have been in healthcare for many, many years now. I'm passionate about our ability to serve the poor and the vulnerable. That's where my heart is. I do a lot with decision making and coaching of our executives. If there's any tint of going sideways, I hopefully gracefully pull us back to what is intentional.
When I think about call, I do think there's something very intimate about having a sense of how that unfolds over time. I happened to go to the University of Providence. I went there from this little town in Anaconda to, in Montana, the largest city, and I thought I was going to this metropolis where I would learn all the things of the world. And this one spring break, a group of us were going to go to Seattle, and I'd never been to Seattle or any big city before. And one of the Sisters of Providence, when I was there at the College of Great Falls, there were many Sisters of Providence that were there as teachers, administrators, etc. And this one Sister of Providence decided she would go on this spring break with us, and we were going to spend the first night in Spokane at the Sisters' residence there, at Mount St. Joseph. You know, we all thought, it was a free night lodging. The only thing we had to do was go to Mass. We thought, well, we could put up with that. Even though it wasn't Sunday, we could put up with Mass for a free dinner and free lodging. When we went into that chapel, I felt like I had never been in a place where it was all women. Everyone was singing. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Probably the first real deep spiritual experience that I ever had. I don't know what makes these women tick, but whatever it is, I want it. What is it that is so compelling that I had to find it inside myself? So here I am now, gosh, what was I, 19, 18, whatever. Now I'm, well into my 60s, and there's still that strong yearning for a prophetic voice, for a deep relationship with the spiritual, with God, for trust in providence. And that is so deep in me that all I want to do is share that with our leaders in Providence so that it continues far beyond the Sisters of Providence, far beyond me. It's a deep call that's come from God, and I don't have a choice but to listen.
So mine's a little different story. When I was in high school, if you ever had to vote on the most socialized person in high school.
Oh no, isn't that surprising?
It would have
Who
been
would have ever thought that?
My father and my mother gave me a really deep sense of purpose in life. My father was very engaged actually with the Providence Child Center and also volunteering at the Blanchette House in Portland. And they really cared for everyone. When you think about DDI, I just kind of grew up accepting everybody. But it was really my mother and father's example, I think, without fanfare, of just taking care of our dear neighbor. When I was in high school, my father was going to daily Mass, and I started going to Mass with him. So on one side of me was this spiritual person, and then this highly socialized individual. I do not know the actual time it came to me, but I wanted to go to China and build orphanages for the poor children. And that was kind of my bent. I applied to the Maryknoll Sisters because they were the missionaries at the time, and I was to go to New York for an interview, and I knew that my parents could not afford a trip to New York in those days. So I went to my church, which was very foundational for my family, and talked to a priest, and he says, well, why wouldn't you enter a religious community nearby? Because my mother worked for the Sisters of Providence at St. Vincent's, and all she talked about were these sisters. So then I started working at the Child Center, and one thing led to the other, and Sister Francella said to me, why do you think you have to go to China to take care of babies? We have them right here. So that led me into entering the religious community very quickly, actually. No academic tests, no psychological tests, no physical tests. They just brought me right in, like it was crazy. You know, it's one of those things I've just never looked back, and I just really, really feel that this has been a call by God. I am still very, very, at my heart and soul, is taking care of vulnerable people. And when I think about that today, it may not be the orphans, but it's certainly the LGBTQ community. Now I still feel called to be in leadership, to try to influence all of our policies and our directions that we're taking to really take care of our communities in a very sacred way.